Happy holidays. I'm Wisconsin Historical Society Press author Gary Jones, and I'm going to be reading a Christmas piece to you from my book, Ridge Stories, Herding Hens, Powdering Pigs, and Other Recollections from a Boyhood in the Driftless. I hope this recalls enjoyable memories of your Christmases past. When Angels Wore Bedsheets. On the afternoon of the Christmas program, Guy Williams would walk across the road from his farm to the Pleasant Ridge EUB church to stoke up the furnace that did little more than take the chill out of the drafty old building. Down the road at our farm, we started chores early, and I didn't dawdle putting the milking machines together. The church was half full by the time my family arrived. Going to a service at night was a novelty. On Sunday mornings, the huge room was inviting, filled with light from the tall, clear paned windows. But at night, the shadows transformed the familiar setting into one both intimate and remote, depending on whether I glanced at the faces crowded in the oak pews or at the dark, blank windows. The sight of Grandpa and Granny already seated in the congregation, he wearing his teeth for the occasion, and she fidgeting with an artificial Christmas corsage, banished all thoughts of remoteness. A wispy white pine from Sandy Mott's woods was positioned up front to the left. It was decorated with a miscellany of Christmas ornaments, some handmade with more love than craft, such as the shiny snowflakes snipped from coffee can lids with tin shears. Along the front of the church, faded brown curtains hung on a wire, stretched from one side to the other. But behind it, the picture of Jesus remained. But the old Victorian parlor table that served as an improvised altar had been temporarily moved down to the basement to make more room on the stage. May Broker, with her wreath of graying red braids haloing her squinting smile, shed her coat and took her place on the piano bench. After flexing her arthritic fingers for a moment, she flipped to the Christmas Carol section of the hymnal and began thumping her way through those familiar tunes while the remainder of the audience filed into the church. Finally, the moment arrived. Someone flicked off the light switch and the church dimmed, illuminated only by the tree and lamps. The audience hushed in anticipation as the rings hissed along the wire, the curtains opening on Margaret Ann, my little sister, who chirped through a poem of welcome. Many of the recitations had been performed a week earlier at the one-room grade school Christmas program, intended to celebrate the coming of Santa rather than the birth of Christ. Others, more religious, had been practiced in the church on the preceding Sunday afternoon. May slid back from the piano to make room for Uncle Vern, an angular farmer pianist with weather-reddened cheeks and work-calloused fingers. Those hands that milked cows and shoveled manure could perform an impressive chord-rippling version of Star of the East. Balding bachelor John Marriott, in a vintage tan houndstooth suit coat, faced the piano rather than the audience, hands behind his back, and bellow of basso rendition of "Oh, Holy God." And while some backstage quietly sang along, the rest of us stifled giggles and poked one another. The highlight of the evening was the pageant. Angels in bed sheets and gold tinseled halos, shepherds in bathrobes with canes, and wise men in kimonos that were Ben Denman's souvenirs in World War II. Betty McDonald, cloaked in a blue dyed sheet, portrayed Mary. A pretty girl, she was especially radiant that night, and no one could tell but the skirt she wore under it was hemmed with safety pins as she had run out of time making it. At the conclusion of the pageant, Reverend Matthews clambered onto the stage in his baggy serge suit, and after loudly clearing his throat and beaming smiles in all directions, offered the benediction. The tolling of the church bell announced the arrival of Santa Claus, who in his red and white flannel suit and matted cotton beard bore a striking resemblance to Gordon MacDonald. He distributed small paper bags filled with hard candy, peanuts in the shell, and apples. After the doors were closed in the EUB church, gradually the fire in the basement furnace would die. The sanctuary, illuminated only by starlight, would cool and wait patiently for the coming Sunday morning service. Happy holidays to all of you from those of us at the Wisconsin Historical Society Press.